Hey everybody, it's Jimmy, Bill, and Ange today. Guys, what we're talking about today is the California wildfires, and we're talking about a little bit about the hurricanes in Florida and their effects on real estate. But before we even get started on that, my heart goes out to everybody in California. These fires are horrible, and we could spend the next hour or two just talking about how horrible it is. And we could also talk for the next 2 hours and just point fingers of what caused it and everything. But we're not going to do that. There's plenty of videos on YouTube all over the place doing both those things. I just want everybody to know that my heart goes out to everybody there. I'm thinking about them. But today what we're going to talk about is what we think is going to happen, in our opinions, soon, and what's going to happen in the future. Plus we're going to talk about insurance, the effects of these kind of disasters. So, since we're going to be just talking about real estate, the real estate side of it, okay? These disasters, we don't even know what the end result's going to be, okay? So, I wrote down some notes, all right? So, California wildfires, devastations like the Dixie fires. And you were from California, okay? Mm-hmm. So they were talking about Dixie fires, the fire that had destroyed entire communities, billions of dollars in damage and disruptions. Do you remember that fire?
I put it this way: I've been through so many fires out there that they all become a blur.
Okay, and one of the important things with this video is Ange is from California, and he was in fires, so he could talk about it firsthand. And Bill was brought up in Florida, so he could talk about hurricanes, and I was through plenty of hurricanes too. So we're going to talk about all these devastations of what's going on, especially in California. So, Ange, have you ever seen a fire like this before?
No, this one is like off the charts, and it doesn't surprise me. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me. Because I've seen other ones that were really bad, and not blaming anyone, but fires, when you have so much dry brush, and there's like, people got to understand, like in the Palisades, or even at the Kenneth fire, which is like Hidden Hills, Calabasas, where I lived. You got houses built like in the middle of a canyon. So it'd be like, you could be the only house surrounded by like mountains, when you're at the bottom, you have one road coming in, and it's all that brush, right there. So you can't go stripping the mountain, because then when it rains, you'll have mudslides. But people just can't understand like how many trees and bushes, and there's so much greenery out there. And when it gets that dry, it's a tinderbox. And it's not just, from like all right, they're saying these started from the Santa Ana winds. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I'm not gonna go either way. But the Santa Anas, like, they come around every year. I mean, this is a weird time for them too. They're usually not around this time. But those winds are so hot, like, and they're moving so fast. You can be standing in front of your house and it'll whip past you, your face. Your whole face will go red, like it's got like a burn. I mean,
oh, so wow. Really?
Like, yeah, oh yeah, it's so easy. And when you like, I don't know when the last time they got any water on any of that stuff. You wouldn't even need the Santa Ana winds, or even, like, say, an arsonist kind of thing. If there was just a broken bottle that somebody dropped up in the mountains somewhere, and you had a really good sunny day and it was just hitting that glass properly, because we've had that happen there too, where literally a broken bottle sparked a fire, because everything around it was so dry, and the glass just heating up, and eventually it just goes.
Let me ask you a question, okay? On the real estate side of it, when people, aren't they, like, I don't know a lot about California real estate, but aren't they required to clean up all the dead brush around the house?
Okay. This is, now we're going down like a
no, really, I'm not trying to point fingers, but I'm saying we're going
down a dead end street here now. And the reason, what I'm going to get about is, like, you could start cleaning around your house, and you'll have an official knocking on your front door telling you to stop.
That makes absolutely no sense.
I heard that talking about that on the news too.
Yeah, I mean, it's put it this way: It is the weirdest place in the world. It's supposed to be like, so liberal and everyone can express themselves and, do everything you want, so to speak, within limits. Like, you're not supposed to commit murder and stuff like that. But you could wear whatever clothes you want, paint your house a certain color you want, things like that. But it is the most like police regulated state you've ever lived in. And like the state agreed years ago, we voted on it. I voted on it. That with Gavin Newsom, it was 2014 or 2017, I forget, that they were going to clean up. The forestry department was going to come in and pull a lot of that stuff back. They never did. Like, never did. Now, I can't say you're flipping a coin going, hey, maybe we'll have a good year, maybe we won't. They have fires there every year. And they have fires when, like, that aren't even started by nature. Like a car could break down on one of the, in the hills somewhere, and it just kind of pulls over and the muffler hits some grass, up in flames. It's like we have a fire line. And when you hit that fire line, which is, I don't know how high it is from like say you take Hollywood Boulevard, and they'll say anything a half a mile above Hollywood Boulevard, at that point, that's the fire line. You can't have anything that's incendiary above that line. Like, you're not allowed to smoke, you're not allowed to do anything. And when you think about it, when you have something like that, you'd think as the neighbors, the state, the village, the county, whatever, you'd be real strict on, hey, we got to clean this stuff up and make sure it's good. Nope. Nobody does it. It's like, California is weird, man. It's like, it's the cleanest, dirtiest place you've ever been to. It's the nicest, rudest place you've ever been to. It's the cheapest, most expensive place you've ever been to. It's such a whacked state. I mean, I was only there for work. I mean, I lived there a very, very long time. And because I worked in the entertainment industry. And if you want to be in that industry, that's where you got to go. But I'll tell you, when I left, I'm going to be now in Florida come this March, 2 years. And when I left, I think my blood pressure went down 10 or 15 points.
Really?
Yeah, because I used to worry all the time about fires. Literally, I'm not joking. In my garage, I had 3 go bags, meaning like knapsacks with clothes and stuff in it, that if you had to bug out at any time, you could. I had 10 cases of Costco water bottles, and not the little ones, the quart ones. And you're going like, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know. Start spraying it, popping holes in it, let it leak. I had a fire hose on one side of the house, and I had a fire hose on the other side of the house that hooked up to my pump that I could throw in the pool.
Hey, Bill.
Bill was a fireman. He knows these kind of crazy things.
Yeah, so, Bill, that's what I want to talk to you about right now. Okay. These fires with the dry brush, okay, around real estate over there, I mean, is it such a tinderbox like everybody explained, just jumping across highways?
Well, that's all the ambers from the, the ambers from the flame, from the palm trees and stuff. They just go.
Yeah, it's people. I don't think it's really, really hard for people to fathom how hot fires are. Not just you take the wind away, take all that, the embers and them getting carried on, but it's really difficult for people to really put into perspective how hot fire really, really is. And particularly, let's just not even take California. Let's just do brush fires and stuff that we've had here in the Tampa Bay area over years and stuff. And even into Orlando, we were deployed up into Orlando around the Disney area when there were brush fires up there. We're not super dry, but they still burn. And then the muck burns underneath. It actually goes underneath the ground and will burn. But when you get that volume of fire like they have there with the dry wind, fire creates its own weather. It'll create its own wind. It creates its own system because it's just drawing in so much oxygen because it has to feed.
Is that why they were having gusts of wind almost 90 miles an hour in some areas?
No, those were the Santa Anas.
That's the Santa Anas. That's something different.
Yeah.
So that's something totally different. Those Santa Anas will feed just like if you're using, like a blower in your fireplace. Not that we have a lot of fireplaces here in Florida, but to fan the fire or your barbecue grill, it'll start, fanning up the flames. It does the same thing. And then just imagine the sheer volume of fire that, you go to a house fire and everybody's like, wow, that thing is hot, or a car fire. And, people walking by can feel the heat from, 100 feet away, 200 feet away. Now do acres of fire. like literally acres of fire. It's not just this little smoldering thing that's rolling around, as people are now starting to see in the news.
So basically, these fires pretty much, what you're making it sound like, they create their own storms, their own weather within the fire.
Yeah, their own wind patterns and stuff, because you'll have fires that are over in different sections, and then they'll kind of start working towards each other, and they do create wind because there's
it's like a vortex. Volume. It just takes off and goes. Think of it like a tornado. When you see the tornado going, and all of a sudden it's jumping from place to place. That's how that is, and you're getting it from like all different angles. It's like swimming in everywhere. You can feel it going across you. You're getting hit from all different directions.
Yeah.
But what feeds into that even more is like, take the Palisades. The Palisades is like, it's a bluff, like where it's layers. It goes up, and it's all people living at different heights, and then it's different angles and those roads, and then there's valleys, and you go back up the hills.
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
So the wind just whipping through is creating its own like vortex tornado in a way.
So
and you can't get through. Firemen, what these guys, put it this way, I've always said, the hardest working people in the state of California are the firemen. Cal Fire, like that's their job. Cal Fire is that they're meant to handle all that stuff. Where the LAFD is like technically below the fire line, like they handle the other stuff. But when they work together, those guys are absolutely, and women, they are amazing at what they do. But there's only so much you can do. Like
Right.
I was watching the other day, yesterday as a matter of fact, because I get a California feed here in Florida to see what was going on. They had 125 firefighters climbing up a mountain, and they were pulling a hose that was 3,000 feet long, filled with water. And they still got their oxygen tanks and all their gear. I mean, they're carrying about 125 pounds of equipment, and they're climbing up a mountain that you and me could never climb.
No, I agree
just
with you
in
guys.
shoes.
So basically, from everything that you guys are explaining, right now, as of the time of this recording, the last reports I saw, some said 10,000 structures, some said 12,000 structures.
It's more like 15 to 20,000.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it ends up. But
Yeah.
so you're talking about billions and billions of dollars.
Put it this way, just
damage.
in the Palisades, if you could find a house in the Palisades for under $1 million, even $1.5 million, it's basically a one-car garage that's destroyed already. And I'm talking about like 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got houses there that go for like 50, 80, $100 million. The average house is probably 3 to 7 million.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second, okay? The houses on Malibu, on the beach and stuff like that, like 2.5 Men, that kind of house,
It's like a $10 million house.
Yeah, so those houses are pretty much all gone, okay? Now they have to pretty much start. You have a clean slate. Pretty much everything's gone. You're going to have to just start building. And from the research and things I'm hearing, it's going to take 5, 6, 7 years to start.
It'll take 20 years, 25, maybe 30 years.
Okay,
See,
Bill, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing to start with before we get any deeper. California has so many rules and regulations, and I know Newsom said he was going to like waive all the regulations, like the permitting and stuff like that. I'll give you an example. A couple of years back, I had to put a fence up in my backyard. I had to replace the back wooden picket fence, right? And it was about 65 feet across. It took me 2 years for them to okay the permit.
Right. Well, I'm going to get to that. I got a whole list of subjects that we're going to talk about, and that's one of them is, so, but I want to ask Bill a question. Bill, as a fireman, okay, when they're rebuilding, because now they're doing a clean slate, is there any way you could build a house that's pretty much fireproof? Like, I'm not saying completely fireproof, but
You can, pretty much. Build a brick house.
Fireproof.
No, but build a brick house. Those houses aren't made of stone. They're all wooden structures.
Right. Bill, what do you think?
Nothing's completely fireproof per se. You put enough heat to it, everything's, it's got to get made somehow, right? So,
Right.
It's, what are you going to do? You're going to build a solid block house with like fire resistant plexiglass, like the fire chambers where you see the blast chambers and the boil chambers and like smelts things like that. You're going to build houses like that. That's not
It's
feasible.
impossible. That's what my
doesn't
point
make
is.
sense.
You-
Yeah,
You're talking about billions of dollars in damage right now. Even if you put a sprinklers, those sprinkler systems that people are trying to sell that you put on the roofs and stuff that go off.
Well, if
Yeah.
I had a halo system on my house. A halo system will work, but a halo system is, I got lucky. The house had it, but a halo system is like over $100,000. You know, that's where it leaks from the roof, and it leaks like a kind of like a gel that comes down and it coats it, and that can withstand like thousands of degrees. And then it sprays in the yard like a sprinkler system, and so it just goes out like if you had your sprinklers on, and it wets all the grounds. I had one of those, but you got to hey, do I got electricity to set it off? You know, does all the canisters full? You know what I mean? It's a lot. I never used it, but.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I mean, think about it like you lose a power line.
What do you guys?
Yeah, you're dead. That's it.
Let me ask you guys this question. So now everything's like over here, the hurricanes, okay? Like a lot of homes that are hurricane damaged here are for sale right now. They're not even being repaired, just investors. And the prices are pretty cheap right now. I've been looking at some of these houses that were going for 350, 400 when they weren't damaged are now going for 150, 175. But in my opinion, the prices, the initial values of these properties, and I think it's going to happen in California, they're going to drop dramatically.
No.
Okay, let me finish my question.
Go ahead.
They're going to drop dramatically at the beginning, and then they're going to, once they're rebuilt, they're going to be rebuilt with much more expensive houses with a newer code. I think that's what's going to happen in California. I don't think everybody's going to be able to rebuild. A lot of people don't have insurance.
Oh, a lot of people didn't have insurance there, but it's not about the house, it's the land. And everyone knows, how expensive land is. But put it this way, back in 07, 09, between those years, when the real estate crisis kicked in across the whole country, and everyone's houses were dropping in price, and you could pretty much pick anything up for song and dance, state of California, the prices went up. I know, because I had friends who bought houses, and they were like, this is crazy. It's a bidding war. And in the Palisades, it's going to be a crazy bidding war.
So, what you're basically saying is after the house is burnt, the value is still the same amount or more.
I'm not going to, well, if you had a $10 million house, you're not going to get $10 million for the property, but it's not like it's going to drop to $1 million. You might walk away with $7 million or $8 million in your pocket.
Bill, what do you think? The initial value is going to drop?
Yeah, I mean, are we talking like the house just had a little bit of fire damage? Or are we talking like the houses?
No, it's
like
gone.
I've seen
It's
on the
gone.
news,
These
it's
houses are gone.
Well, we're just talking land at that point. So
right.
By the time you get done with permits, and let's just put all this, we're going to make everything easier, because that's the big issue, and that's everybody's been talking about that, is being able to get a permit and how hard it is to get permits in California. And let's say they do waive it and make life simple to get a permit. Well, how are you going to get, if you're talking, let's just call it 15,000 homes, just for the argument's sake, while we're talking about this discussion, 15,000 homes for building materials, permits, workers. How are you going to get that many people to get rebuilt? It's going to take years and years and years to get.
But what do you think the initial value is going to happen?
But that's where I was going. They're just going to be lots. Right. It's just going to be land. There's going to be nothing there. There's no value except for the land. It's not a house anymore. There's no value to that. It's a house. I mean, it's a piece of land. It's not a house.
We have the same situation here. Like, these people have houses that can't be rebuilt. They have to be knocked down. And then over the years, people are going to buy them at pennies on the dollars. They're going to knock them down. Then they're going to build really expensive houses, and the value eventually will go up.
Take ours for example. Like, the structures weren't knocked down; they were flooded. So the structure's still there, but it's not livable. You can't rebuild it. You have to scrape it and start over again. That's not a house. It's a piece of land. It just happens to have the remnants of a house on it.
Yeah, but you have to take a lot more into consideration. Like, you take the houses going down, Newport Richey, Hudson, any of those places. There's nothing nice about those places. There's nothing special about them. So those houses weren't worth a lot to start with. When you go into the Palisades, you'd be surprised how many houses have ocean views. they're not even on the ocean. They're 3 miles back. And the way it's all bluffs, and the way they can look out and see the whole entire Pacific.
Yeah, I remember seeing a picture of Matthew Perry's backyard. He was away from the ocean, but he could see the ocean from his pool.
That's what I'm getting at. And it's not just only that. I mean, it's everything else that goes around. When you go out of the Palisades, like if you're going east to west, you're going down Sunset Boulevard, you'll go through Beverly Hills, you'll hit Bel Air, then you're kind of passing UCLA, and you're going down. Then you hit Mandeville, and you hit that whole community there. Then you're into the Palisades, and it's like the Palisades is so big. You could take like all of New Manhattan and put it into Palisades, and it's still not filled up. You could take the state of Rhode Island and drop it into Palisades, and it's still, you haven't taken it all up. It is enormous.
So let me ask you guys this question. So you guys are saying years to be rebuilt.
Well, it's going to just years to clean it out. Like, just to get all that stuff out.
10 years before it goes back to not noticing there was a fire there?
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, you're always going to notice something there because, there's always going to be the spot that hasn't been fixed yet. You know what I mean? The place that's still under, distressed. A lot of it will get like cleaned out within the next year. They'll just come in and bulldoze it. But here's the other thing they got to figure out. Like, it's not just about building a house. You got to redo the water lines, the electric lines, the gas lines. I mean, they got to redo everything.
The roads, everything, the infrastructure, everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is a new development project.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly what it is.
I was heading with that.
Yeah, it's brand new.
You're probably going to start seeing, I would speculate, that you're going to start to see, and obviously I don't know California real estate by any stretch, but it would make perfect sense, that people are going to sell their land, their house land, whatever's on it, and you're going to see developments come in, and they're going to redevelop. They're going to have to start from scratch for the most part and redevelop everything because everything is
to new codes.
Shambles. Well, I'm not even worried about the codes. I'm just saying there's nothing left.
Yeah, they're not going to. If anything, the codes are going to get loosened up a little bit, where they may say, "Hey, we want more houses built with like an I-beam structure, so that like the walls just don't all fall in." Maybe use block on the first level, like we do here in Florida.
The cost is going to be a lot more.
Yeah, but they're also going to get. I mean, I can't predict what's going to happen as far as like FEMA or something like that, but somebody's going to have to underwrite a lot of that stuff because
so let's talk about that. Okay, insurance challenges.
So we got to remember that California also has earthquakes. So I don't see, just logically, I see getting permits and things like that and running the red tapes a lot easier, but reducing construction methods.
No, that they won't do. Yeah, but
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm not talking about everything has to get redone. So new codes. I'm not saying permits. I'm saying codes I don't think are going to change. You're going to obviously everything's going to be up to the newest, latest, greatest code. But they also have earthquakes and stuff to deal with. So I just don't foresee that. Kind of like we had down here with Katrina in Miami and in the Metro-Dade area about down South Florida when we started swapping over our codes. Our codes got more stringent because we didn't want to have these issues.
Earthquakes are a walk in the park compared to fires.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I agree.
It's like
100% agree because this is so wide sweeping. This is insane.
You can't control it.
I even think fires are worse than hurricanes.
Oh yes, without a doubt.
And floods because a flood, you see it coming slowly. Some of these fires
only happens kind of around like the water. You can get, as you see if you're watching like the Kenneth fire or the Eaton fire out in the Palisades, there's no water there. They're not near any beaches or anything. So fires can pop up anywhere, even here in Florida.
They move rapidly. I saw some fires move
blink of an eye.
Within minutes.
With the ambers going all over the place, you can get 10 fires starting at once. All
right, insurance challenges. In California, wildfire zones seeing insurance providers pull out drastically and increase premiums. Okay, we already know that. Florida faces similar issues with hurricane-prone areas. What do you guys think has to happen? And I know a lot of people are trying to figure out this answer, and we probably don't have the answer. But what do you think has to happen with insurance when it comes to California fires? Because the insurance companies, what they're going to do is they're going to pull out. Nobody's going to insure insure there.
The main reason was, well, they started dropping like the fire coverage about 18 months ago. And the reason why
Yeah,
is
State Farm did.
well, a bunch of other ones too. But the reason why they did it was because Newsom actually said that they were going to bring in the Department of Forestry and they were going to clean everything up. And the insurance companies gave them a window, like it has to be done by this time. And they didn't do anything. And the insurance company sent in their inspectors and said, "We'll go bankrupt. We can't we can't do this." And that's why most of them pulled out.
A lot of them pulled out. And I read that, they wanted to increase premium and they weren't allowed to do it, but who knows what's true and what's not.
I just know that they didn't clean. The state didn't clean what they were supposed to clean.
But the question is, for both of you guys now, Bill, what do you think needs to be done when it comes to insurance for California for fires and Florida for hurricanes?
I don't know. I can't even count how many conversations we've had about this. And I don't have an answer. It's just, at some point something has to give. And we've said this over and over again. There's no, because these things that are happening are such massive devastations. It's not like it's bad. It's tragic. It's
a war zone.
It's just biblical. What's happening in California is actually biblical.
Yeah.
And at some point, the insurance company is a business too, and they still have to make money, and they can't go bankrupt, just like State Farm said when they backed out because of the fire stuff, because allegedly certain people weren't doing what they were supposed to do to help prevent this. Statistically, I think the number is, don't quote me on this, but I believe most fires, 95% of fires are started by people. And not necessarily malicious.
Yeah.
But it's like 95% of brush fires in California are started by people. Like I said, not a malicious thing. It could just be like Ann said with the car.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
the debris, things like that, pulling off the side of the road. But that's still human. It's not natural. It's not a natural disaster.
Like a lightning strike. So
exactly.
Ange, what do you think? What do you think they have to do with insurance? Here's my opinion, real quick. I think the federal government's going to have to get involved, and I think that it's going to have to be a la carte. You get this kind of insurance from this company, that kind of insurance from that company.
But you know what? I honestly think that's probably the worst thing to do, because even like here in Florida, all the companies pulled out and we have Citizens, which is the state, and they're like in big trouble, because they I don't want to say it's mismanagement, but there's no money, so people had been filing for the hurricane and they're not going to see anything. What I would say you really need to do is all right, let's take your house, by Hudson over there. The houses that are up on the stilts, the ones they threw up on the I-beams that are all hurricane proofed out. In the last hurricanes, nothing happened to those houses.
No, they were good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's got to get to something like that. Hey, if you're going to live on the water, you got to be, 12, 16, 18 feet above, that kind of thing. And they'll have the steel roof, actually have hurricane standards.
But that's my point. All these ranches, all these old, even California, all these wood structure houses.
Well, and it's as crazy. And a lot of them have been there. You hear people saying that, I've lived in this house for 50 years or 60 years. And they'll my dad built the house, my grandfather built the house, or whatever. These houses are old, and I've been in a lot of them. They're beautiful property and nice houses because the people keep them up, but they're all wood framed houses with a stucco on it.
I read a lot of people that live in the Palisades and everything. They're multi generations in that house because they couldn't afford to buy the house. They got it from their parents, and their parents got it from their grandparents.
Well, it's also a tax kind of, I don't want to call it a loop, but if my father left me a house, in California, he leaves me the house, I get to take it, it's an inheritance, but my property taxes don't go up. Now, if I sold the house to you, and no relation whatsoever, my $5,000 or $10,000, whatever it is a year, yours might go to $50,000 or $60,000. Because it's 2.25% or something like percent on the sale of the house. So whatever the price of the house is, that's what the property taxes become. And people bought houses, back in the 40s and the 30s and the 50s, where property taxes were probably like $300. And now you have a $10-15 million house, and you're only paying, $6,000 on it over the years. So
yeah, no, I
it's-
mean that's I
that's-
totally
but it's like,
understand. So,
that's
but
another problem in itself, because that's money that, if a portion of that money would go to like the fire department and the police department. So when you have so many houses and so many people, and you're not getting in enough of that tax base to pay for that, because they're paying nothing in tax, that's another issue. It's
So, Bill, I got a question for you. Okay, shift in housing. Like a lot of these people that are selling the houses in Florida, along the coast that got flooded and everything, they're leaving high flood areas, high risk areas, correct? And a lot of people in California, I think, they're going to be, after this fire, they had it, and they're going to move to a safer, non-fire. I'm not saying there is every place has a fire danger,
Not
but
as
they're going
predominant.
to move to a safer place. Do you guys think that's what's going to happen? Bill, what do you think?
Well, of course. But first and foremost, the people that lost their homes, their years. Even if tomorrow they started building, it's going to be another year before they get back into their house, right? So they're going to have to look for a rental. Rentals are already strained because of everybody looking for a place to go. People are going to move. I mean, this is a vast number of homes. So on one hand, people who can't afford to purchase things, they're going to purchase some stuff, just like they did after the hurricanes and storms here, the year before last. We had issues. They lost their homes. They started migrating, basically, because they were devastated. They were gone. They didn't have a house anymore, and it was going to take a year and a half. So they got to live somewhere. So people started to purchase homes in other areas. So we got a little bit of an influx. And I think that's going to be the same thing that happens there. And some people are just going to wash their hands of their property like they have, in the past year. It's not anything different. It's going to be the same. And then some people are going to be like, I'm done with this. And, they don't want to go through it again and worry about whether or not they can, if they get insurance. And then if they do have insurance, is it going to pay? So.
Yeah. And do
There's
you think a
always
lot
those
of people
group
are
of
going to abandon their homes in the Palisades and the fire-prone areas?
This is a hard one to figure out, because it really comes down to what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like what your job is, your occupation. And, in those places, because it was very expensive to live, it's a lot of like producers, directors, actors, attorneys, plastic surgeons, like people who are like, high earners. And you're not going to leave there to go to, say, Texas or even Florida. Because it's just not the lifestyle. You're not going to make the money you made there. And I can't even say that they're going to say, hey, we're going to move to, Laguna, which is, 3 hours south, because that's not where their clientele is. And here's what's pretty crazy. As big as the Palisades is, and as bad as it is, you just go, once you you cross over Sunset and you go to, say, the Riviera. That's the south side of Sunset, like the golf club and the whole area where other people live. I can't say 100% that that's perfect, but as you start to go the next block and the next block, everything's untouched. You know what I'm saying? There's not a thing wrong. So it would be as if the hurricane hit Miami but didn't hit anything else. You know what I'm saying? And everything else in Florida is 100% perfect. And it's only like Miami, or it hit the Keys, and the Keys is a mess. And the crazy thing is that the Palisades is kind of off the beaten path, because it's closer to the water, so it's down some. And California has a weird culture, like you live where you work. So like, a lot of people will probably work, you could work over in Hollywood, which wasn't too far, or you're a doctor, you're right there, you're in Beverly Hills, which is 10 minutes away. So I don't know if these people honestly will leave. They might build cheaper houses, put something up that doesn't go for as much money. I can't. It's a really hard one to tell, because a lot of them do have the money to rebuild. A lot of them actually had insurance that they were paying top dollar for. I have two friends that lived in the Palisades that lost their house, And my one friend that lost it is he works in the entertainment business alongside me, and I know how well he does. So for him to build another house is going to be a drop in the bucket. He's just going to be like, build the house. So
Let
it's
me
$2
ask you
million.
guys a question. Bill and Ange, Bill first. Property developers, investors, you think they're going to come in like they're coming in here?
Of course they are.
Like they're a lot of the hurricane damaged homes.
Yeah, of course
I
they
know
are.
now 6 or 7 of them that were sold to investors. They paid pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, they're going to try to do that. They'll try, without doubt.
So do you think the same thing's going to happen in California or what's happening here? Investors are going to come in and try to buy a lot of that land?
Well, honestly, you know what I think is going to happen? And this is what I seriously think they're going to try to do. I think they're going to try to do, like, there was a hotel built up there over in the Palisades. It was the, I can't remember the name of it now. It only opened like in when they did the villages over, like 2018, somewhere around in 2019. It had beautiful views of the ocean and everything. I think they're going to try to kind of build like let's call it like a village, like a multi-dwelling, like, a community where we're going to put together 100 condos. Like the developer will come in and buy a bunch of land and go, we're going to put 100 condos here. And they're all kind of like self-sufficient. And I don't think you're going to see as many single houses anymore. Like,
that was a conspiracy theory that somebody was talking about. I don't know what show it was on.
Really?
But it was a conspiracy theory that they were talking about it. Bill, you heard of it, right?
I know. Give me a break. I mean, come on. You're telling me
the
that
conspiracy is what? That someone's going to just build
somebody
apartment
said it to burn out, and the short and sweet of the story is this was intentioned so that they could burn it out, so that developers could come in or whatever and build
because that's ridiculous.
These PUDs.
I mean, because if you were, put it this way, you could, if you were a big developer, like you had, like the Koch brothers or someone that's really huge that's got a lot of money, you could have probably come in there, like a year ago and walked up and down 3 blocks and made offers on houses that were totally fine and probably bought them and said, okay, we're going to build like high-end condos like they do in Miami, like 2 or 3 stories. I just think now, since it's, because don't get me wrong, there were a lot of houses there that were like garbage houses. Like they were nice, but they were like ready to fall over. They were so old. You had to redo the roofs, the windows, the doors, So there's definitely going to be a lot of people that will sell, and they'll get a couple of million for their property. They'll get 2, 3, 4, 5 million, depending on the lots and the size and the location. And you'll get someone coming in putting up, like, they won't be high-rise condos, because of the earthquakes, but you'll get something where there may be 2 stories. Like you have a downstairs and an upstairs kind of thing.
Like I was saying earlier,
these hurricanes and these fires had a big emotional toll on people. So, in my opinion, is a lot of them, and I would say like 50%, in my opinion, are going to be like, I'm out of here. Give me what I could get, and I'm out of here.
I don't think it'll be that high. I think it'll probably be low, like 10, 15%, and it'll either be older people who just don't have the time. And when I mean the time, I mean the lifespan to like wait for it all to like, flush through. Where if you had a young family that are in there, even if the parents are in their 30s or 40s or maybe even in their 50s, that might just say, you know what, we can wait it out 3 years or 5 years and rebuild.
We'll put it this way, Ange, and Bill could talk about this too, is over here, all these homes that are impacted with, nobody's still living in them. They're like trying to sell them as they are. You can't get permits. They want permits just to put up sheetrock, and the permits are months behind. People are having a really hard time getting permits, And I think California, with their environmental factors that they're going to put in place to rebuild.
It's very easy to say, well, we're going to make it easier. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, until everybody is at the permit office with the, limited number of people there, and they're filing their permits, and then you got to get contractors, you got to get materials. I will fall over if everything is back to normal in 3 years.
No, never. I agree with you.
I don't see it ever happening.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
No,
people are going to have to go somewhere and do something in the meantime. It doesn't matter. It does. Even if they don't leave the state, they still have to go somewhere, because they can't live in a tent on their property until their house gets rebuilt.
Well, here's the thing. You know, like, it's great if you file for a permit today and, you know, and they grant it to you, whatever. You can't do anything until all that stuff is removed.
Exactly. And
You
the
know,
infrastructure is rebuilt. It's
You know, like, and you're not talking like just, you know, like you got a block of 10 houses and 4 of them were destroyed by the hurricane. And so you're knocking those 4 down. The other ones are okay. This is literally house after house after house after house.
Well, yeah,
you know.
materials too. You know, materials like that aren't, you know.
Oh, and that stuff's not going to become cheap. It's like, you know, it's when you think about it, it's someone's
What
going
do
to
you
be
guys
making
think the
money.
government role should be in all this to help them rebuild? I mean, like the government is supposed to help a lot of these hurricane people.
Well,
I mean, do you think the government, like Biden said, oh, for the first 6 months, we're going to cover 100% of the expense?
Is it 6 months that he said?
Yeah, I
6
believe he said 6 months, we're going to cover 100% of the expense. Now, do you think that...
But what expense? Like, is he talking about like you need money to rent an apartment or get another car?
I think he's talking about, I think he's talking about like the expense to pay for the firemen, the fire trucks, the equipment to fight these fires. You know, that's what I think he was talking about.
When you have a state of emergency and that's when FEMA kicks in, and that money does pay for the staffing. That's why they declare a state of emergency, because it unlocks federal funding.
Right. This money is not. It's not like, okay, the government's come in and they're going to rebuild my house. I don't think that's what they're talking about.
If I remember correctly, FEMA can actually give you like low interest rate loans. So if you're gonna because I know when they in Long Island, when the people had to jack their houses up, when they changed all the rules, they all got loans through to put the 10-foot brick wall or whatever you want to call it, lift jack the house. They all got loans from FEMA, and it was like because they needed $150,000 to do it. No one had it, and FEMA gave them. Because I remember my mom was telling me about it, because we don't have it on our house there.
You're talking about in Island Park. They did
yeah, back in Long Island, yeah. And they gave low interest rate loans to rebuild stuff, because it's a government loan. You know what I'm saying? It's insured through the government. Kind of like if you're getting a loan, if you were in the Navy or the Army and you're getting a loan to buy a house. You know what I mean? It's all backed by the government. Now, I don't know if they're going to 100% do that, but here's just a crazier thing just to throw out there. Like, everyone's forgot about the Carolinas.
Oh yeah, people still living in tents.
Yeah, those people are still, and I mean, and I can't even say that's like a tenth of what happened there. You know what I'm saying? I can't really put a division number, like what's but it's like, come on, give it a break. It's like you're going to do all this. You haven't even fixed that problem yet.
This is why I'm like, you just attempting to rely, kind of going back to Jimmy's question, relying on the federal government to come in and save the day. I just don't see it happening. It's going to take leadership at the local government level to get things done, not just waiting for the federal government to come in and do things. They can give you some subsidy, I would imagine, kind of get you back on board. But the federal government's not going to come in and make a planned unit development and, then go, okay, well, here's the engineering to put in the new sewers and the roads and all the other stuff that goes along with it. It's just not going to happen.
Here's 2 case studies that I looked up, okay? I mean, this is what I found. Is it true? I'm not 100% sure, but this is what I found online. Paradise, California, nearly wiped out by campfire in 2018. Rebuilding has been slow due to high costs and insurance challenges. So that one happened in 2018. Okay, Paradise, California. In Naples, we had Hurricane Ian, rebuilding efforts focusing on higher elevation, hurricane-proof designs. They're still working on it.
Yeah.
So you're talking about in California from a fire from 2018, and they're still dealing with it. Of course, it's out of the news and everything. So here's my conclusion on what I think is going to happen. I think a lot of people are going to leave. I don't think it's going to be as dense as it once was. Okay. I think that all the brush, they're going to come out with another way of working on the hillsides so they don't have mudslides, and I think they're going to be terrified of this happening again. I think this is going to be remembered for years and decades to come, and people are going to be talking about this for a very long time. I think, like I said, a lot of people are going to move out. I think insurance is going to be a government takeover for insurance in high-risk areas until they come up with a solution. just like in Florida.
But here's the difference. In Florida, the people like have left the state. California, they're not gonna leave the state. They'll go and they'll move from the Palisades to Beverly Hills, or they'll move to Santa Monica, or they'll move to like Orange County.
Well, I have some information here about a lot of people are going to be fed up with the state, and a lot of people are leaving the state of California and going to places like Colorado, Texas.
More people move into the state of California than actually leave the state.
According to these stats, high-end earners are leaving California, and low-end earners are moving in.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's more because you take a high earner, it's one person. You know, you take like a Mark Wahlberg, you know, he leaves and goes to Texas or wherever it was he went to. But then you get 50, you know, Bob Smiths moving in. You know what I mean?
All right, so at the end of the day, what do you think is going to happen with the area? Then, Bill, what do you think is going at the end of the day it's going to happen in the hurricane areas, including California? What do you think, Ange?
Well,
in a nutshell.
I think put it this way. I think it'll be years before anything gets done in the Palisades. They'll fix the other places, like, you know, out in the Eaton Fire, out when it's out by Granada Hills and not Granada Hills, was out east in Pasadena. Those places, that's a lot of houses burned down there too. I think those will be fixed faster than the Palisades. Like way faster than the Palisades will. It'll take maybe 2-3 years, but they'll definitely get built quicker. The Palisades is going to probably be like a 25-year endeavor. Because you're going to see them
25 years. That's,
because you know what I think? Honestly, this is what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to redesign the whole place. You know what I'm saying? Where they're literally going to look at, hey, we had roads going this way into this canyon, and then we had 50 houses built into this canyon, and we couldn't get to them. So let's not build in that canyon. You know, it's like they're literally going to like rezone it, I'll say.
So you're saying the government is going to go in there and going to buy people's property,
or the state. You know what I mean? Somebody because the ones out in Pasadena are like normal neighborhoods. You know, like you could just drive right in, drive right out, not a problem. Walk around. It's just like any neighborhood that anywhere in America. But the Palisades was like literally like you're going like this. Up and down, you know, canyons. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of flatlands where, you know, you'd have rows of houses built, but then you got all of a sudden you turn the corner and it's back up and down. You know, it's a really like there's 4 parts to the Palisades.
So you really think it's gonna be 25 years before it gets back to normal?
Yeah. Oh, if it's lucky. I mean, put it this way: the Pali High. That's the Palisades High School. That's like 30% of it or 40% of it got burned. That high school was amazing. Now, I don't know. Who knows? You're probably going to have to knock the whole place down, you know, and then build another high school. And how much could a high school cost to build? Without a doubt, $2-3 billion. You know, it's going to take.
Taxes are going to be insane. They have to get the money from someplace.
Yeah,
the federal government's not going to give them all the money to rebuild.
They're going to have to literally, like, I'll say, rezone it to where they start figuring out how many houses to put on a block. You know, where you can.
This is what. Planned unit development. That is the definition of a planned unit development. That's what I'm talking about.
They're going to have to.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
So that the government's going to come in and buy them eminent domain.
No,
right?
not the government. The planned unit developments are done. They're done in conjunction with the government, the local government, state, you know, like state and city governments with investors. And they plan out how they want things. They have. Just like they do when you look at a new development like Avalon out here, 38,000 homes. You know, that's.
Yeah, but if somebody doesn't want to sell, they're going to force them to take it?
No, they do have eminent domain.
That's what I'm saying.
You know,
I agree with you.
I mean,
I don't agree with 25 years.
Well, I put it this way: to get that place, so much. See, here's one thing: so much of that place had just been redone. Like there's in the villages, that's where like all the stores and all the shops were. Like it was like the new rodeo. It just opened up in 2018 and 2019. It was absolutely, it was insane. It was so beautiful. It's gone, 100% gone.
I think it's going to be 10 years. Bill, what do you think? How long?
Yeah, I mean, you're at least 10 years. I mean, obviously, you're going to start seeing things progress.
You'll probably see the stuff that's most visible start, progress the fastest. So anything that's closest to, like, say, the main roads. But everything that's going up the hills, we're going further back, that's what's going to take years to do. Because it's behind you. It's off the beaten trail. It's in the background. And once they get the rainy season, and then they clear some of it out, you'll get a lot of shrubs regrowing and things like that. But that's another big worry. Comes February when the rainy season kicks in.
That's why I said that they're going to have to do.
Yeah,
they're going to have to do something on some kind of brush or something that's more hesitant of catching fire. I have no idea what, but
yeah.
There's programs in other countries that they've forestry management. And if you let forestry do their job, it really reduces some of these things. And don't think for one second that something's not going to change in California when it comes to plans. And I know everybody loves the animals and everything like that. And I keep hearing these things talk on the news that we want to keep the brush because of the, this bird and that animal and this, that, and the other. But where do they live now? We had a brush fire. We've lost all the people and the animals. So, we have to look at this as a broad picture. This is no different than the Great Chicago Fire, and that changed the way Chicago did business, right? That was back in, 1870 something, and it burned down 3 some odd miles of the city, burned it to the ground, killed hundreds of people, right? That changed the face of things in Chicago.
It's like the hurricane that hit Galveston, Texas at the turn of the century.
Exactly.
Yeah,
These things are changing the face of how places do things, and it's really a reality check for everybody and everything. And you'll see stuff start to change, and the way they build things, where they allow things, it's going to change in California.
But here's the one thing. Bill, I'm gonna ask you a question because you were a fireman, so. When, I know how New York City works. If you want to be a cop or a fireman in New York City, you take the test, you go to the academy, you got the job. And you're good. You're good for 25, 30, whatever years it is. You don't have to worry. Because in New York, when it comes to how the budgets are made, the first thing on the budget is, we'll call it 911 response. Police, fire, EMS, that's number one. Then everything else starts to come below it. So they don't lose their jobs. They don't go, we're closing down a precinct, we're closing down a firehouse, we're going to let firemen go. That does not happen in New York. Now, I don't know how it is in Florida, but in California, the fire and the cops, that's number 375 on a list.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's when I was living there was firehouses that were closing almost one a month at one point. And they try to take some of these guys and put them in another firehouse, and some of them have to go find other careers or leave the state and become a fireman in Nevada or something like that. I think what they got to do is all right, I don't know if it's true or if it's whatever the deal is. When everyone was screaming that the mayor of Los Angeles, cut the budget by $17 million. Now the new topic is that she also cut it by another $49 million going forward for next year. So it's wow. It's crazy. Whereas the first two things have to be police and fire and, and EMS response. You know what I'm saying? Where they're guaranteed. You don't close down firehouses because the biggest threat in the state of California is not homelessness. It's not earthquakes. It's not unemployment. It's not drugs. And it's not even guns. It's fire. That's the biggest threat in the state of California. Fires. They're everywhere. They don't have the water to back it up. That's what they need. That's where it needs to start, where they have to turn around and say, hey, we need to reevaluate how our response is. The fire department didn't do anything wrong. They went above and beyond and then some. But the resources weren't there. Enough firehouses, enough personnel, enough water supplies. So they got to figure that out even before they start rebuilding the Palisades. Because if you don't figure out that first stuff, the Palisades is going to happen all over again.
Yeah, it's just going to be crazy what's going to happen. Because I'll tell you one thing, at the end of the day, the only people that are going to be living in the Palisades are going to be the rich people, and the only people that are going to live on the coast of Florida is going to be the rich people. And
I have nothing against that. If you're going to go out and work and hustle and bust your balls and make money, and you can afford it, God bless you. I'd love to be one of them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but if you just want to stay home and eat bonbons on your couch and watch, Marvel movies, hey, God bless you. Go do that too. I'm not going to judge anybody in what they do, but I'm never going to put it this way. I've never been offered a job from a poor person. Okay. Bottom line. If someone's making good money because they're putting people to work and doing stuff, let them live there. If they can afford it and they can pay the taxes and keep the place up, I got no problem with it whatsoever.
Obviously, the taxes are going to go up. Well, anyways, that's what I think it's going to be. I think that the solutions, the government's going to have to get involved with insurance for Florida and California. And I think the rebuilding is going to take probably in Florida 5 years. I think the Palisades and the fire-prone areas, probably 10 years.
Well, put it this way. If Florida, you're saying Florida from what? Which hurricane was that you mentioned?
The last two. I think it's going to take 5 years.
So what was the year? What were the years on those hurricanes?
2024.
Okay, but no, you mentioned one before. You said Ian?
Yeah, when was Ian, Bill?
17?
And you said that there's still like wherever that one hit, it's still a mess, not 100% mess.
No, but I mean, people are living there. I mean, the values went up more than they were back then.
But there's still a lot of places that aren't fixed yet.
Right. It's more because insurance companies don't want to go in there,
Yes. No, so I get it. So I'm saying it's 2024. So it's 7 years later and the place isn't like 100%. You go back to Long Island where we grew up. I don't know when the last time you were there. Sandy was what, 2011, 2014? I think.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, I wasn't there for Sandy. I was in Los Angeles. Last time I was in Long Island was just before Christmas of 2023. It was like October, November, right there, and just going around our town, there were still houses that were messed up because of Sandy.
I see that all the time. Yeah.
And we're talking, 15 years later, 10 years later.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
The fire isn't even contained yet.
I know.
It's like what, maybe 15, maybe 20% on a high end. And they got winds kicking up tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could get even worse. And if those things jump over Sunset, and they start going towards Santa Monica, just write the whole state off at that point. That's the tax base for the whole state. That and down in Orange County. That's where the money comes from.
I heard even the studios were at risk.
But we were closed down. Universal so today's Sunday, Saturday, was it Thursday? Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Lost all power, nothing. So it was like, couldn't do anything. But
a lot of the production left California, but...
Well, put it this way, a lot of production was never in California because California has the worst tax incentives to bring production in. So they go and they shoot everything out of the state, but everything is rebuilt back in the state, like all the editing, the sound mixing, the color correction, all that stuff is done there. Now editing can be done remotely because editing is just, it's a one-on-one kind of thing. You have the script, make the cut. Someone tells you to change, you make it. Color is subjective. People got to be in the room. Sound, people got to listen.
I get the point.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like put it this way, most of those people that are now displaced all worked in this industry. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to find a place to live so they can still work.
There's going to be a ripple effect. It's just not the residential houses that got destroyed. It's the businesses that got destroyed.
Oh,
grocery stores.
At least 5,000 or 6,000 business structures were destroyed, gone. I mean, the Village, that whole area that they just built 6 years ago, is totally gone.
That's jobs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's today's video, guys. Let's see follow up, see what happens. But stay tuned. Make sure you guys subscribe out there. Comment below. Tell us what you guys think, and we'll do another video, a follow up, and see what the conclusion is on this.
Well, we should come back maybe in a week, to see when the fires finally get put out. And we got some pictures.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys staying until the end. Don't forget to subscribe. And we'll talk to you in the next one. Thank you and have a great day.
God bless.
See you on the next video. Thanks.